I'm not sure if you know what the word omnipresent means, but if you're wanting to grow a business online, being omnipresent, being everywhere, being all over the place, being present in all places should be something you're looking at doing and should be part of your content strategy. But I also understand that being omnipresent takes a lot of freaking time. So today I want to talk about repurposing your content, why it's useful, why it's helpful to be omnipresent and to be everywhere at once, and how you can get this done for way less time and way less moolah. Hey, howdy, hey, y'all. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Stansberry, and if you are new here, this is the place for you to learn all things passive income and automated sales so you can work less and live more. So if that sounds like something you want to do, make sure you hit subscribe because it is fun around these parts, I promise. Y'all, my hair has started frizzing because it is summer. It is dead of summer in the South, which means it's humid as crap. And I just filmed another video and I was wearing a sweatshirt, and so I was sweating, and it's a whole thing. So I'm not really sure why I just told you all that, but I felt like you needed to know it. So let's read the definition of omnipresent, shall we? It basically just means widely or constantly encountered, common or widespread. Another word is ubiquitous, which means present, appearing, or found everywhere. And extra points if you're a Gilmore Girls fan and you remember the time that Lorelai used the word ubiquitous at Friday night dinner and wasn't sure if she used it correctly, but she did, talking about this exact thing, okay? She was talking about anvils. Is that how you said anvil? Anvil? Is my southern twang making me draw out the I in that? Is it anvil or anvil? Anyway, you know, the big heavy things that like Wile E. Coyote would get dropped on him. Anyway, not the point. Being omnipresent or ubiquitous is to be found everywhere, to be very, very common, to be something that people see everywhere they go. It's like the red car, right? Like you see a red car everywhere you go. That is omnipresent. That is ubiquitous. And that is the key to growth with a business, is being omnipresent, is being everywhere your potential customer could be. Now listen, don't get my words twisted. I'm a big believer that you should only be focusing on one social media platform and one content creation platform at a time. But that doesn't mean that you can't be present on the platforms you're not focusing on. That's what we're talking about here today. And if you're a content creator, if you are making YouTube videos, if you're a podcaster, if you're a blogger, if you're an Instagrammer, if you're someone who puts content out onto the internet, you have everything already ready for you to be able to be omnipresent and to be everywhere. So as an example, let's say that you're me and you have a YouTube channel as your content creation platform and you have Instagram as your social platform. Well, I can take those YouTube videos and also have them scheduled to go out on Facebook. Therefore, people who like my Facebook page, even though I don't focus there, are still seeing regular content from me. I can also have those YouTube videos go out to Twitter, even though I don't even know how to use Twitter. And I could have those YouTube videos being pinned on Pinterest, so when someone is searching for something, they find that video. I could also have my Instagram post pinned on Pinterest. I could use those same Instagram posts to go to Facebook or even to write a blog post from. So essentially, one piece of content can be multiplied times whatever to make sure that you're being seen on any platform that your ideal customer could see you on, even if that is not your main platform you're focusing on or you don't focus on it at all. Guys, I don't even open Twitter. Listen, we're going to talk about Twitter threads in a second because I tried to make one the other day and didn't know how. I ended up tweeting like 72 tweets because I didn't know how to make a thread, and I felt very old, and it was a whole thing. I figured it out, but that's how little I know how to use Twitter. But every single time I publish a YouTube video, Twitter gets a hold of it because I have done some things to make sure that happens. So if someone's preferred platform for social media is Twitter and they look me up on Twitter, it looks like I'm active, they know how to find me. So there's a ton of different benefits for doing this, for making sure you are everywhere. But for the most part, it's a pretty easy thing to get done. And if you're creating any content on the internet, you should be doing it. Here's the bad news. Most platforms want you to create content specific to their platform. And you're gonna hear that everywhere you hear somebody talking about social media or content creation platforms. But that is for growth. So if you are taking your live videos from Facebook and putting them on YouTube and expecting YouTube to grow, that's not gonna happen. But if you already have a decent following on YouTube, or you can tap into some search terms, you may not grow that, but you may get exposure from that video. So while I'm telling you to do this, understand that most content creation platforms kind of frown on repurposing content from one platform to another because the formulas are different, but there are ways to do it where you can kind of trick the system, and that's okay. Okay, so what are some examples of content repurposing? What are some examples of being able to take one piece of content and put it elsewhere, or use that piece of content to sprinkle your little, presence all over the internet? I have like a whole list, so let's just talk about these. You could take existing YouTube videos and have them chopped up into shorter clips for Reels, Shorts, and TikToks. You could yourself or have someone else clip them up into 15 to 30-second clips to put out on these shorter platforms that are taking off and are all the rage right now. So one YouTube video could also get you content for 3 other platforms besides YouTube. And while we're on the topic of YouTube, you can also take your YouTube videos and have them transcribed or have them repurposed into a blog post. So if you know anything about SEO, you know that Google is the #1 search engine in the world. And if you want to be found in Google, you need to be writing blog posts that get you found in Google. But again, this is another content creation platform. And if you're focused on something like YouTube, then I don't want you pulling your focus to blogging. However, submitting your YouTube video to a transcription service or to someone who could repurpose it and making a blog post with no time off your schedule and very little money could be beneficial in so many ways. I have done this for years. Sometimes it's been contractors, sometimes I've just used transcription services. Right now, my full-time assistant Laura does this, but essentially every YouTube video gets turned into a blog post because I don't want to waste that SEO juju that I could get from putting those keywords out into Google. Now, from that blog post, you could expand on a blog post for an email newsletter. You could take pieces of a blog post for an Instagram post. You see where I'm going with this. One piece of content could afford you the ability to be in a million different places. So that one YouTube video could turn into a blog post, which turns into an Instagram post, which could also turn into tweets, which could also go to Facebook, and you didn't do anything but record that one YouTube video. Podcast episodes are exactly the same. So if you are already recording a podcast, you could have someone transcribe it, you could submit it to a transcription service, and have it turned into a blog post. That blog post could then be repurposed in several different ways as well. So the moral of this story is, if you're creating any type of audio or video content, that is really easy to then turn into all other types of content. It's harder to be, blogging and turn that really easily into a video. That's not as easy, but filming a video and turning into a blog, which can then trickle out into other places, is a super easy thing. So if you're YouTubing or podcasting, this is a really easy way to repurpose everything. Speaking of YouTubing and podcasting, you could film a YouTube video and have the audio pulled to turn it into a podcast episode. Now, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't feel authentic on a podcast to, have the audio pulled. Sometimes there's more editing involved, but you could do that. On my content calendar in a few weeks, I plan to sit down with my husband here on YouTube and talk to him about his decision to quit his job, what he's planning to do, what made him make the decision, and really do a deep dive. And I absolutely plan to pull the audio from that and make it a podcast episode instead of having to record that exact same thing twice. So you can absolutely take your YouTube videos and turn them into podcast episodes pretty easily. All it takes is a different type of export at the end. So if you're already exporting a video, all you have to do is export it just as an audio file, and there you go. Now, one that's super common right now is taking Instagram Reels and turning them into YouTube Shorts and TikToks, or some combination of that string of events. So maybe you're doing TikTok videos and you turn them into Instagram Reels and then into YouTube Shorts, or maybe you're doing YouTube Shorts and you turn them into Reels and TikToks. But because there are like a bajillion platforms right now that want this short form TikTok style video, you can absolutely create them in one place and use them in multiple other places. Now, I have found that what does well on Instagram, what does well on TikTok, and what does well on YouTube Shorts is all very different. So that's an interesting thing, but you absolutely can take something you do on TikTok and repurpose it for these other platforms. And remember, a second ago, I said you could take your YouTube video, clip out 15 or 30 seconds of the video and turn it into a reel, and there you go. Now you have a reel, a TikTok, and a YouTube short. I mentioned Twitter threads a minute ago because I couldn't figure out how to do them, but if Twitter is your thing, then any kind of written content can also be broken down into a Twitter thread. So, maybe you are writing a blog post, or you had a blog post repurposed from a video or a podcast episode. You could take some really relevant pieces of that blog post and turn it into a Twitter thread. You could also do the same thing from like an Instagram post. Maybe your Instagram post was really great, the caption was, and you could repurpose that into a Twitter thread. So there's a ton of different ways and avenues you can take to repurpose your content. And here's the deal. If you're a solopreneur, you either need to pick a couple of these that aren't terribly time consuming for you, or you need to hire out. Because where the real magic happens is that you, as the business owner, as the content creator, you have to do one piece of content and someone else takes it and turns it into multiple. That is where the magic happens. That's where the secret sauce is. That's where being omnipresent is really easy, because then all you had to do was one piece of content and someone else takes it and makes it into the other things that are possible with it. I understand if you're watching this that you may not have the ability to hire someone full-time or even hire a contractor or anything like that to do this. So don't stress yourself out trying to do everything we just talked about, but picking and choosing things that you can do, that you can get done, that are going to be important, can be really, really successful for you. For example, when I was a solopreneur, when I was not, able to hire someone else to help me do any of this repurposing, my main goal was to make sure that I had a YouTube video, and then secondarily to that was that I would write a blog post to go along with it. The reason for that was because I was very much so focused on search, and I really wanted people typing into the Google box and finding my videos or my blog posts. And I've talked about this before, but Google really likes it when you have a blog post that has a YouTube video embedded. And so I always made that a two-part strategy. I would film the videos and I would write a blog post, and I would make them work together. But I wouldn't have at that time then also taken the time to clip out a reel, or taking the time to take that blog post into an Instagram caption or whatever, because that wasn't the capacity that I had as a solopreneur, and those things weren't as important to me as growing the search-driven content was at the time. Now, for years and years now, I have had either contractors or employees or someone on my team who is in charge of taking my content and repurposing it. Sometimes that's been contractors who I submit my video to and they write a blog post from it. Or sometimes that has been a team member who, just submits it to a transcription service and we use that. But I have done this for years because it's that important and I've seen the benefits from it. And the really cool part about content repurposing is you don't need a full-time team member to do it. You absolutely can hire it out, and you can find contractors and people who are really good at doing that thing. We recently used somebody on Fiverr to get this done for us. We submitted a YouTube video and they gave us back a blog post to go along with that, graphics, Pinterest graphics, and a few other things to help us repurpose that content. And they were specifically a content repurposer listing on Fiverr. So if that is something that you want to do, even if it's just for a few of your videos, if it's not all of them, if it's for a few of your podcast episodes or whatever, it's really easy to find someone on a service like Fiverr that can get that done for you. Now, if you want to try that out, I went ahead and linked in the description a link straight to like the content repurposing section on Fiverr, so you can find that really easily. So go ahead and check that out. But it was really awesome because that took the content repurposing job off of my team, and they were able to free up more of their time for something else that week or for that video. So if you are a solopreneur, that is a really, really great place to start with something like Fiverr, to get someone who knows what they're doing to just submit this and get it done for you. Because then you now have multiple pieces of content out into the world, multiple pieces of content that could attract your ideal customer, and multiple ways that someone could find you out of one piece of content that you created. Let me round this up and say again that it is most important that you focus on one search-driven or content-driven platform, YouTube, a podcast, a blog, and one social platform. And if you truly do not have the budget or the capability to do any of this, then don't. I would rather you focus on each of those platforms you're trying to grow and grow on those, and then that will afford you the ability, either the time or the money, to get the things repurposed. But if you are looking to be that omnipresent person, to be someone who is everywhere, to be someone who people see when they open Facebook, but also Instagram and also YouTube and also this, then you can definitely take advantage of some of the strategies I talked about to make sure your content kind of just goes everywhere once you create it. I truly think that trying to be everywhere in a passive way, not trying to be everywhere in that I was doing it all and not doing any of it well, but trying to use my main platforms as a way to fuel the ability to create content on other platforms. I truly think that me doing that throughout the years has drastically increased the ability for someone to find me, come into my ecosystem, buy from me, be in my communities, etc. And I would always preach that to somebody who's wanting to get started in the content world. And honestly, creating content opens up the availability for you to have tons of other options as well. So for instance, I am developing a new ad strategy on Facebook ads to sell some of my programs and things like that. And one of those strategies is putting out video ads to a specific person to solve a specific problem. And instead of recreating the wheel, we're taking YouTube videos that I've done in the past, chopping out the YouTube specific parts of them and using those as those ads. So creating one piece of content, creating a YouTube video, has allowed me to then create a blog post, to create the availability to be found on Pinterest, to create an Instagram caption or an extended version of the blog post for like an email newsletter. And now it's also allowing me to have videos that I can use for Facebook ads. So that one piece of content was able to do all of those things, and that is the power of content marketing. If you can't tell, I could nerd out about content marketing all day. I love it so much. I think it is such a great thing that so many people don't take advantage of, because most people are out there hustling to try and get their next customer or whatever, and that is fine. But if you're creating content, you literally have employees out in the world for you all the time selling your things and getting people into your ecosystem. Because I still have videos from years ago being found that are getting people onto this channel, or maybe on my email list or onto my Instagram or whatever. And so I created one piece of content that has worked for me for years. Then you can cause it to have a dual purpose by letting it work for you on other platforms. You just won the game. So like I said, if you want to check out those people on Fiverr, I have linked them below. And I'd love to know in the comments below what videos you'd like to see around here, because I am always looking to create videos that you want to see, that you're going to enjoy, and that are going to help you work less and live more. So if you have some ideas, hit me up in the comments below. I will pin a comment and you can like comment on that. It'll be really easy. But until next time, bye y'all.